Mr Chair, on behalf of the Green Party, I want to make a few comments about the estimates with regards to finance. The thing about the finance estimates is that they include not just the issues of economics and the fiscal position of the government, but they also impact on the environment and society more generally. And the Green Party has a view that what we need in New Zealand is we need a cleaner environment, we need a fairer society, and we need a smarter economy. And for those reasons, we think that we need to change direction. And unfortunately, this government, as we've seen in that last...
Sorry, no, the members. Sorry. Now, I'm on my feet, and when the presiding officer is on their feet, that is it. Now, I'll ask the member to apologise for that comment. It's the very unparliamentary comment you interjected with that called the minister a word which should not be used in this House. And ask the member, well, the member withdraw and apologise for those comments.
Oh, I withdraw and apologise, sir.
Right. Dr. Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr Chair. And unfortunately, we've heard from the Minister a long attack, a personal attack on various people instead of debating the real issues which are before the country, such as the issue that we've got a government which continues to rack up massive amounts of debt and continues to criticise the previous government, and yet it was the previous government that paid down debt. That's the reality. The previous government, with the support of the Greens, we voted for budgets that reduced debt, and the National Party at that point told us time and time again, don't pay down debt, give tax cuts to the wealthy. But of course the Labor Party, with the support of Greens and New Zealand First and others, said no, we're responsible about this, we intend to pay down debt. So that the government, when it came in 2008, we inherited a position of very low government debt. Since then it has increased debt dramatically and hasn't run a single budget surplus, except for the last one, the 2014-15 year, where there's a wafer-thin surplus. Every other budget that this government has run has been a deficit budget, and they've built up nearly $60 billion worth of debt. $60 billion worth of debt under the watch of John Key and Bill English. And they tell us that they're great fiscal managers. These are the people who have built up nearly $60 billion of debt and who, through the course of all of the previous government, time and again, through 9 budgets, opposed the attempts to reduce government debt because they said no, surpluses shouldn't be used to pay down debt, surpluses should be used to give tax cuts to the wealthy. That was the argument of the National Party during those 9 years. Now, fortunately, everyone ignored the National Party because they don't know anything about fiscal management, and so that when the GFC happened in 2008, there was very low government debt, and the existing government was lucky, the government we have now was lucky enough to inherit very low government debt. As a result of the very good fiscal management of actually the Labor government. Now, we've been critical of Labor on many things on various occasions, but you'd have to say that when it comes down to looking at the government's debt position and fiscal management, and you compared the record of Clark and Cullen versus Key and English, it's like miles apart. Clark and Cullen paid down massive amounts of debt. Key and English have built up $60 billion in debt. Now, sure, some of that debt was unavoidable, no question about it, but let's look at which bits were avoidable. How about the $5 billion that the National Party gave to the top 10% of income earners? Was that avoidable debt? Remember, they've racked up $5 billion worth of debt in order to give tax cuts to the top 10%. Now, that seems to me not a very good reason to rack up $5 billion worth of debt, to give tax cuts to the wealthiest people in the country, yet that is what the National Party is proudest of. And they tell us time and again they're very proud when they look at their fiscal position. We added $5 billion of debt to the government books in order to give $5 billion in tax cuts to the wealthiest 10% in New Zealand. Now, this is at a time when most ordinary families, half of all workers, haven't had a pay increase in the last 12 months. This is at a time when housing affordability is going backwards. Now, housing affordability isn't just going backwards because houses are getting more expensive under the National Party, but also because wages are flatlining under this government. Ordinary working families' wages are flatlining under John Key and Bill English. House prices are going up. and the government says this is a sign of success. Well, talk to ordinary people. It is no sign of success. Their household budgets are under enormous pressure because electricity bills keep going up, housing bills keep going up, and their wages are flat under this government. There is no increase for ordinary families. And that is at a time we're not dealing with some of the great issues facing the country, for example, climate change. Now, the Green Party put forward a plan of a climate tax cut. We put a price on carbon and returned it in the form of income tax cuts and company tax cuts. That deals with environmental issues and economic issues at the same time, a much more sensible direction than where this government is going, which is more debt, environmental and fiscal.
Call Andrew Little. Sorry, my apology. I'm sorry to the member. I made that mistake the other day when I called Andrew Little Andrew Williams.